No, it's just Twitter notification. Hey, Aaliyah Jasmine sent me a message. Aaliyah Jasmine sent me a message.
Go Argos, go, go, go!
What's up, everybody? This is Jube from Section 122 on ArgosEndzone.com, and it's Week 20. The end of the regular season is upon us, and we're going to get you ready for the Argos hosting the RedBlacks on Friday Night Football. But first, let's take a look back at what happened last week. Once again, a tale of two halves for the Argos there in Week 19 as they went into halftime with the lead, but couldn't hold it and couldn't add to it in that second half as Montreal was able to get the lead and the defense just clamped down and wasn't allowing anything to come through. Some great games throughout, though. Swayze Waters with quite possibly my favorite special teams play of all time when the punter recovers his own punt. Just great hustle on his part, and a tip of the sombrero to Mr. Waters as he is the Toronto nomination for Outstanding Special Teams Player in the CFL this year. But aside from that, Mike Bradwell, who, of course, always wins for best hair, had the great touchdown pass and a sweet stiff arm earlier in that same series. And congrats to Mitchell Gale for his first CFL touchdown pass. Well played, sir. Well played. He does all the grunt work, the short yardage quarterback dives, so it's great to see him get the opportunity to throw the ball as well. But then, of course, on the downside is another loss. So the Argos lost control of their own destiny. Now they're begging, they need Montreal to beat Hamilton this week to have a chance of getting back into the playoffs for this year. Also, they'll be doing it without Ricky Ray, as he was injured during the final series with what sounds like a concussion, keeping him out of this game here against Ottawa. But what you saw was a Toronto team that was able to move the ball well in the first half, and whether I credit to Montreal making the adjustments at halftime, as they could not make the ball, they couldn't make any yardage in that second half. It became a frustrating game to watch. The defensive side, defense on the whole played well, but Montreal just capitalized on the mistakes. A coverage breakdown and letting Duron Carter get open on the sidelines. Everybody knows who Duron Carter is, and you can't let him get behind you. So it was one of those things where I got a hunch that if you saw the game as a whole in person, the Argos defense played well, but it was just one or two mistakes that led to big plays and big scores. The 2014 regular season closes with the RedBlacks taking their very first visit to Rogers Centre to take on the Argonauts. This should be an interesting game in the sense that the Argos, of course, have got to win for a chance to get to the playoffs, whereas Ottawa, long since eliminated, will be bringing out a lot of different players and some new looks to see who they've got as building blocks as the franchise moves forward. Toronto also be looking at a glimpse in the future as Trevor Harris will having his first pro start this week, as Ricky Ray is out with a concussion. We're going to see clearly a different Argos offense against a pretty decent defense from Ottawa. One of their bigger problems has actually been moving the ball on offense. The defense hasn't been horrible. They haven't been stellar, but they haven't been horrible. And they've progressed through the season. It'll be an interesting test for the young pivot to see what he can do against this team. Again, in a must-win situation. When the Argos are on defense, you're looking for a couple key players, and it all starts with Shea Emery. Emery is good for that one big play per game. It seems to be throughout the season, and the Argos are really going to need him to step up in a big way this week as well as Akapalugo. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I apologize, but the Argos nod for Rookie of the Year, and I believe Defensive Player of the Year. Has had an outstanding season, and he's going to need to be putting pressure on whoever's taking snaps again for the RedBlacks. I'm not 100% sure we're going to see a lot of Henry Burris, as again they're looking for the future and seeing who else they've got available to them. So it'll be interesting. It's got to be interesting for the Argos to game plan against because they really don't know who they're facing. So they're going to be looking at old film more about play strategy rather than personnel. So it's a bit of a challenge on that side, on all sides of the ball, frankly. So they've got to, of course, win the turnover battle, hang on to the ball. They've got to make sure they get good field position and that every drive is ending with points, whether it be 3 or 7. So that's what it is. And, of course, since they've lost control of their destiny, then they're all going to be glued to their TV on Saturday. Assuming they win, they'll all be glued to their TV on Saturday to see how Montreal faces against Hamilton. Eesh. This week's fantasy pick, I'm going to go with Steve Slayton. Obviously, the guy has really come into his own, and some fans were saying he was very underutilized in the game against Montreal. That's really not my place to say. What I will say, though, is when you've got a first-time starting quarterback, he's going to need a balanced running attack to make him comfortable and take some of his pressure off. So watch Steve Slayton to get some carries early and often and see what he can do against that RedBlacks defense. I had a pretty good week last week. I'm in like the top 1,400 now. I just need, about 3,000 points this week to win that trip to the Grey Cup. So come on, Slayton. I think that only works out to like 7,000 yards you got to rush for this week. Do me a solid, man. When it comes to this week's prediction, the math says the Argos are going to win 26-22. And frankly, the math's been closer than I have. So let's go with that. An Argos 26-22 win. And then we all enjoy that victory and glue ourselves to the TV Saturday to see if the Argos make the playoffs. Can't believe I forgot to put you on for the earlier portions. That'll wrap things up here for week 20 here at ArgosEndzone.com. Hope you had some fun. As always, comment below on what you like or didn't like. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. We'll have some fun. Remembrance Day is November 11th, so I'm hoping you're wearing your poppy already. Make sure you got one out to the game because it looks really nice against that double blue. It's Friday Night Football, 7 o'clock kickoff. Make sure you come down there, and make sure you bring $20 with you cash because the Argos cheerleaders are selling their calendars, which are helping the ladies get out to Vancouver for this year's Grey Cup. As I've mentioned previous, this week is Nicole, this month, it's a full month, trust me on this, is Nicole A, and it's hanging up here. You got to make sure you get your calendar. It's Fan Appreciation Night. So there's going to be tons of giveaways and prizes and such. Come on down, have a blast. It's the last regular season home game. Could be the last game for the Argos this season against an expansion team. We don't even know what type of turnout they're going to have on their side from the fans. They're in the province, so in theory it's going to be on par with Hamilton, but who knows? This is going to be an experiment for all of us, right? It's going to be a blast. Make sure you come on down. But until next time, this is Jube for Section 122 and ArgosEndzone.com. Remind you that we ride the rail and we ride it hard.
Toronto.